Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1436.
House Bill 1436 by Representatives Garnett and Wist, also Senator Court, concerning creation of an extreme risk protection order.
Madam Majority Leader Becker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1436 on third reading and final passage.
Question before us is the passage of House Bill 1436 on third reading and final passage. Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, members, for your attention. We had a pretty long debate on House Bill 1436 the other night, and I just have a few comments this evening. Zach and Chris Parrish, the father and mother of Deputy Zachary Parrish, have asked me to read a short statement, and so I will do that now. To allow an individual who is mentally unstable to gain access to a firearm is like handing a gun to a child. On December 31st, 2017, our lives were changed forever when our 29-year-old son, Deputy Zach S. Parrish III, upon responding to a domestic disturbance call, was senselessly and fatally shot numerous times by a man with a history of mental and emotional illness. Other officers who were present were also shot and wounded, one of whom almost succumbed to his wounds as well. These officers' lives and those of their families' lives have been greatly affected too. While recognizing that the right to own and possess a gun in the United States is a protected amendment right, which we support, we also realize it is a right that comes with great responsibility. Our rights should not put others at risk. Therefore, it is incumbent upon us to support the Zachary S. Parrish III Violence Protection Act, a measure that will limit the accessibility that a mentally and/or emotionally ill person would have to attain such weaponry. This is not about taking gun rights away from anyone. It is about protecting our first responders, families, and the community at large, thus reducing these tragedies in the future. Zach and Chris Parrish. Since Monday, members, we've heard from every major law enforcement organization in the state, our elected sheriffs and police chiefs from all over Colorado. We've heard from district attorneys from both sides of the aisle. We've heard from the mental health community, and most movingly, we've heard from women and men, mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers who have lost someone to gun violence. From this diverse coalition, we've heard one thing over and over. In many cases, a law like this could have prevented the tragedies they've witnessed and experienced from occurring. If Colorado had this legislation on the books on January 31st, 2017, and law enforcement or a family member could have intervened in a situation everyone knew was dangerous and had the potential to escalate, and both Deputy Parrish and Jeff Pelly wouldn't have been shot. Perhaps Matthew Reel, a young attorney who had his career derailed by the scourge of mental illness, could have received the care he so desperately needed, the care his family and law enforcement knew he needed. If Colorado had the law that we are debating here today, law enforcement, with the express permission of a court who had weighed the evidence, could have stepped in earlier and removed firearms from this man who was in crisis and saved the lives of both Deputy Parrish and Matthew Reel. Members, we have the opportunity to take a vote today that I truly believe will save lives. This legislation will keep people like Deputy Parrish alive and make the jobs Deputy Parrish, Deputy Pelly, and hundreds of other law enforcement officers do every single day a little safer. This bill has the potential to prevent mass shootings, tragic incidents like the type that happened in Douglas County this past year, and suicides. Members, Colorado has one of the highest suicide rates in the country. In 2016, there were 600 suicides by firearm in Colorado. Each one of those people were in crisis and had gotten to a point where in their own minds, they had nothing left to live for. In each instance, these women and men had the tragic choice to turn a firearm on themselves, and once they pulled the trigger, those people's fates were sealed. Because while there are many ways to end one's life, no single method is more guaranteed to result in death than turning a gun on yourself. Members, I don't believe this bill will end all suicides, or end all firearm-related suicides, or end all deaths, but I do believe that it will help, that by intervening on a temporary basis with robust due process to remove a weapon from someone who is in crisis, we can stop many, many good people from taking their own lives or the lives of others. I take seriously our constitutional rights to keep and bear arms, and this bill does not abridge those rights. We have gone to great lengths to assure that individuals' rights are protected, that the high burden of proof we spell out, the highest such burden available in the law, lies with the family member or law enforcement officer as to why someone shouldn't have access to a weapon for a limited period. And we've given individuals the chance to revisit the choice of a court throughout the process. But we've also heard arguments this week from members that they would rather take someone's liberty than temporarily removing property from someone who might be a danger to either themselves or to someone else. I want you to think about that for a moment. That you would rather lock someone up who isn't a criminal, rather than grapple with the underlying principle spelled out by this bill, that in certain rare circumstances, someone who is going through a mental health crisis simply shouldn't have access to a weapon for a limited period of time until they stabilize and are able to get the treatment they need. I will not claim that this is a perfect bill, and my door has been open, and it remains open to those who have ideas to make it stronger. I will say this about the Zachary Parish Violence Prevention Act. It reflects the input and best thinking of law enforcement, of district attorneys, of violence prevention advocates, those in the mental health community, and even the firearms lobby. This is uniquely a Colorado approach to a very challenging problem, and I appreciate the thought and care that all stakeholders have given to this legislation. With Rep. Whiff's invaluable guidance, we have written a bill that I think is the best of any like in the country, that accounts for the safety of law enforcement faced with de-escalating very difficult situations, and that above all else, vigorously defends people's constitutional rights and due process. Members, let's honor the sacrifices made by the women and men in uniform who go out every day to make our communities safer and who sometimes don't come home. Let's honor the families who have gone through tragedies no one else should ever have to suffer, and let's honor those who have faced down the excruciating pain caused by mental illness. I urge and I vote on House Bill 1436, and thank you for your attention.
Assistant Minority Leader West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I guess you could say that I'm thinking about a lot of things this afternoon, but I'm primarily thinking about the people that make up the fabric of this vote for me. First of all, my family. I know when we sign up to run for office, our families help shoulder this burden. But when it's rough, it becomes a little much. And my wife and my daughters have been absolutely amazing this week. Their support and their love are everything to me, and without my family, nothing else matters. So to my family, I love you all very much and appreciate you so much. To my colleagues in this body from both sides of the aisle, you have taken a tough issue, introduced at the end of the session, and handled it in this chamber with respect, and for that I thank each of you. To my colleagues in the House Republican Caucus, I know that it's been a tough week, and I know that for some of you, You're not happy with me that this bill dropped without prior notice to the caucus at this point in the session, or that it dropped at all. And I know that many of you disagree vehemently with the content of this bill, and you raised thoughtful concerns about the impact that this bill will have on civil liberties. While we may ultimately reach a different conclusion, I want you to know that I respect your voice and your opinion and the reasons for your opposition to this bill. I know this week has made us as a caucus stronger. We're a family, and we all know from our personal experience that it isn't always easy and it isn't always pretty to be a part of a family, but I believe we're still a family. I'm thinking about the Republican elected officials who worked closely with me on this bill and supported me in this effort. My district attorney, George Brockler, my sheriff, Dave Walcher, Douglas County Sheriff Tony Spurlock, Congressman Mike Kaufman. I have deep respect for each of you, and you've stood shoulder to shoulder with me in this time, and I will never forget it. This legislation for me was always about giving law enforcement a fighting chance in extraordinarily challenging times, and you've helped me to honor that voice, so I appreciate that. Thank you. To my co-sponsor, Alec Garnett, I love you, my friend. Over the last 2 sessions, you and I have worked on some tough issues together, this one easily the toughest. Your ability, Representative Garnett, to bring people together, your tenacity to work for bipartisanship, for thoughtful solutions to tough issues is what our state needs, and keep doing it. To the citizens of this state, those who agree with this bill and those who do not, you all have a place at this table and you all have a voice in this conversation. The security of our citizens and the protection of constitutional rights are paramount. I tried very hard to honor both of those goals in this bill. Perhaps I failed. Perhaps I succeeded. I guess history will ultimately be the judge, but please know that protection of the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment are very important to me. And I believe I've demonstrated with my votes over the last 3 sessions that these are tough issues to get right. And I admit I don't have all the answers. I'm thinking about those in our communities who are suffering from mental illness. We are failing you as a state miserably. We need more awareness. We need more compassion. We need less judgment, less stigma, and more resources. Members, we need to recognize that our mental health system is broken. When we say we need to address mental health, we need to back up those statements with action. And my thoughts turn to what started me on this journey, and that's our men and women in law enforcement. I am in awe of you. Every day you get up, you kiss your families goodbye, you head out into our communities to keep us safe, and we expect you to be law enforcers, psychologists, marriage and relationship counselors, crisis managers, mentors. We expect you to do this impossible job, and the expectation is that you should never make a mistake. And when you do make a mistake, the judgments come. And through all of this, you do it with dignity, class, compassion, and with love. And I can't thank you enough. You define service to our state. Members, I'm a realist. I recognize that this bill is likely to die when it leaves this chamber. And I own that failure, and I regret it. But it doesn't shake my resolve to keep this conversation going with all of you and the people of this state. Can we do more to help our citizens who are going through serious mental health crises and help them to come out of these situations safely and in a better place on the other side? Without a doubt, I think we can do that if we work together. I hope that in the coming months we can build from this moment an open dialogue about the path forward. And I look forward to that conversation with all of you. Despite all of the stress and despite all the anger and the pain of this week, I believe that this has been worth it. This is why we are here, to challenge ourselves and each other, to test boundaries, to try new things, and yes, to tackle the tough issues of the day. Sometimes we succeed, sometimes we fail. But members, we must always try. As we vote, I'll mostly be thinking about Zach, his wife Gracie, and their 2 little girls. As a father of 3 daughters, I'm thinking about all the things that Zach Parrish won't get to experience. The birthday parties, the milestones of life, graduations, father-daughter dances, weddings, grandchildren. And I'm thinking about those 2 little girls growing up without the love and support of their father. Members, however you come down on this bill, know that I respect each of you tremendously, and I am always honored to serve with each of you. Thank you.
Representative Martin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I don't want to be here right now. I've never been here on 3rd reading. Sexual Assault Survivor Day, I gave it a miss for 2 years, and I finally came forward in my 3rd year. I didn't come down on seconds. I hid in my office. I just want to talk to you about myself or my family. I don't know if you know, some of them I've talked about Henry, our middle kid. He has Asperger's, and he's tested an IQ of about 170. If you know what that means he's a genius beyond all reason. He's, I don't want to say this at the mic because I don't want him to hear this, but I want you to hear this. He's 6'2", he's about 300 pounds, he's obese now. He struggles, he's been kicked out of 2 colleges, he's failed. He just missed his graduation at Front Range Community College this week. Next Tuesday, he won't graduate again, he's 22. He's full of promise. He has a national internship with NOAA. He's a genius. He has mental health problems. He's been in a 36-hour hold. We don't own guns in our family. He's threatened suicide. He's been arrested. We've had welfare checks. I landed from a vacation 2 years ago. My phone blew up. It was Rick Palacio, who's the head of the Democratic Party. It was the police. It was everyone. Henry's in crisis. Oh my God, what do we do? I don't like saying this because I don't think we use our family to forward things, but I also think that we also need to share. Henry's right now probably fine. He's home, probably sleeping. He's going to graduate from Front Range, and hopefully he'll go to CU. I don't care if he gets his undergraduate when he's 28. He'll get a Nobel Prize, and when he's 70, it doesn't matter to me. Or he'll end up homeless, and I don't know what's going to happen to Henry. I just know I'll always be his mom. And I know that when he's threatened suicide because of his depths of depression, he's never wanted to hurt someone. But if he had a gun, he would have maybe shot himself. And if people had rushed him because he hadn't understood what was happening, and that's happened, And what happened at CSU this week when the mother, panicked mother, called because she was afraid that 2 Native Americans were following her. Henry was eating lunch alone one day at CSU, and the police came and arrested him because some girl was like, that kid's making me nervous. I said, Henry, what are you doing? He goes, I was eating lunch. You know, these things are real in our world. People are nervous. He's nervous. He wants to kill himself. Police have come. They've taken him away in cuffs. He spent 3 days in a, I had to go, and he was on a bed with no sheets, no clothes, because they thought he might kill himself, and bars on his window. And he said, Mom, what's happening? I said, I don't know, Henry. How are we going to do this? The mental health system needs to be fixed. They didn't give me a report. They sent him to a stupid psychiatrist who gave him full of drugs. I was smart enough to be like, no, none of that. We got him to a better one. But that's because I'm able to pay for a better psychiatrist. That's because I could say, we're not taking those drugs that will make you crazier. But for every law enforcement person who's helped us, who's done a welfare check on us, for every single one of those law enforcement people, I just thank God Henry didn't have a gun. He didn't have a gun on himself, and he didn't have a gun on them. And I didn't come down on seconds, and frankly, I was in my office, and I was gonna hide for 1 more year, just like you did on the sexual assault stuff, because I don't wanna tell my story, I don't wanna be on the mic, I don't wanna come out and tell you, but I'm gonna tell you what, for every single law enforcement person who might be responding to someone like Henry. If Henry had a gun, I want them to get him, take him down, take whatever he's got, keep the law enforcement safe and keep Henry safe and get him where he needs to go. And I respect that, and I just urge an aye vote on this, and until you've seen your son on a bare mattress with bars on their windows saying, I want to kill myself, maybe you won't understand the power of the police who have every single best intention for your kids and your family to have the right to take that dangerous thing away from them to protect the policemen and women and protect the kids and our colleagues and our friends and our community members. Maybe you won't know, but, and maybe you're right, Representative Wist, maybe it'll take a year or 2. And maybe now's not the time, but I'm confident in Colorado we're going to come to the realization once most of us or some of us have these experiences that we will say, you know what, I trust law enforcement. Let's keep them safe and let's keep the other people safe too. So thank you for listening. I appreciate it.
Minority Leader Neville.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On behalf of the Secretary of the Army, I regret to inform you that your son was killed in action. I've knocked on that door and delivered that news to a father who lost his son. Lost his son protecting our constitutional rights. I have picked up a family that just received the same news and heard the cries of his 3 daughters saying, Mommy, we miss Daddy. Daddy was so fun. If you truly care about those in uniform who protect us every day, you will not take away the rights that they defend for us overseas. I urge a no vote.
Representative Weissman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, members, sometimes I come down here and I have a statute book or a spreadsheet or a ring binder. So I believe very much that basing what we do on the law and on good research, matters a lot. But as I thought about this bill coming to third reading, it wasn't about additional research or additional time in the statute books for me. It was about values. It was about why we're here, as my colleague from Arapahoe County put it. I think the way that I break down everything that goes on in the world and everything that we might potentially grapple with here in this legislature and really in life is that there are tragedies wrought by the hand of nature, and then there are tragedies wrought by the hand of mankind. We can't do anything about the first kind. Tough though that is to face. We can sometimes try to provide solutions for the second kind of tragedy. When a tornado tears through the town of Holly, overturns houses and puts people out of their home and causes fatalities, we can't get ahead of that problem. All we can do is respond. When 2 years of rain falls in 2 days in a week in late summer and turns streams into raging torrents and gashes through the town of Lyons and submerges the plains of Weld County in 3 feet of water for 3 weeks, all we can do is try to clean up and put things back together. When years of drought kill crops and threaten farmers' livelihoods, all we can do is try to provide some relief after the fact. And when wildfires tear through 4 Mile Canyon or Waldo Canyon, we have to try to extinguish them and help put things back together, but there wasn't anything we could have done beforehand. But not all problems are like that. When 500 or 600 Coloradans are in such pain that they take their own lives with a firearm every year, we are not powerless in the face of that awful reality. We don't have to just react. When intimate partner violence takes lives, I don't even know how many in a year, we're not just powerless there either. And when on a daily basis, law enforcement officers willingly go into dangerous situations from which they know they may not return to their families, because they too took an oath on the Constitution, because they too serve. We are not powerless to improve their odds. This morning, in anticipation of this moment, I thought of some words by the English poet John Donne, who was 400 or 500 years ago, I don't know. Oh, how feeble is man's power, that if good fortune fall, cannot add another hour, nor a lost hour recall. It's a sobering reminder of humility that I think even here, and perhaps especially here, we should bear in mind. When we are faced by tornadoes or floods or drought or wildfires or blizzards, we may feel, even in the 21st century, we may feel pretty feeble, pretty powerless. But in the face of suicide, and I have to be honest, members, I have spent a lot of time over the last year trying to help a constituent. I'm not going to name him, of course. I've been really afraid he was going to take his own life. I've never been more afraid. And I don't believe that he has firearms at home, but I really hope he doesn't. In Judiciary Committee, we heard about these women, Amanda and Lindy. They were taken from us August 27th, 2015. And Deputy Parrish and a number of others. We are not powerless in the face of those things. We may be feeble sometimes, but we are not feeble all the time. And to the question, why are we here? It's to try to address those problems that we can address, like the ones we're talking about here. not for the sake of saying that we solved the problem, but after careful deliberation, careful consideration, careful attention to detail and due process, painstaking attempt to get the answer right, then yes, I believe that we should try to solve problems that we can solve, including threats to law enforcement and other members in our Colorado community. I believe this bill presents a reasonable answer to some of those problems, and I hope that we vote yes.
Representative Breyer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. All of us have been through quite a week with this. We went through quite a few discussions when we were here on seconds. But the one thing that I'm hearing, and the one thing that I don't think anyone in here is stopping to think about, is there isn't a person in this room that isn't extremely sorry that what happened to Zach Parrish. That every one of our hearts don't bleed when someone takes their own life. The 3 young people I talked about that were killed in a car accident. But we are not here in this body, in this house, to make up for those emotions. Nothing of this weight should ever be done on emotion. We are here to pass statute that can be used in court, can be looked at with lawyers, and can be read as it should be read and what our intent was. We are not here to vote based on our intentions, based on our emotional tie to any of these. This is too big. The mental health crisis has been a big factor in this state for quite some time. The beds have disappeared. We've had the opioid crisis for quite a while. There's so many things that need to be done in the mental health. We're talking mental health here, guys. Somebody's thinking about taking their lives. I've had more than one psychologist. My stepsister's son took his own life. He didn't use a gun. If you're going to take your life and you're intent on taking your life, you will find a way, because the hurt and the pain inside of you is that large. All these people that take their lives don't have access to guns. That's not an easy thing to come up with. So if you're going to take your life, you're going to take your life. But we're here talking about a statute that could have real ramifications on real people. And at that point, if their rights are infringed upon because this gets misinterpreted, this law is 36 pages and has many, 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 many things that need to be fixed. But we're intent on emotionally fixing this problem really quickly. That's not what we're here for. And I hate that we're losing all these people, but we have to look at their mental health, not at what they're using. Because everybody that's mentally ill does not have access to a gun. We're not after guns here. We're here to help people. Our intent is to do the right thing, not to just move on something that we're all very emotionally tied to right now. I would urge a no on this bill right now, because 10 days is not enough to do this. That will definitely come back to haunt us. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Rennell, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote on House Bill 1436 on third reading and final passage. Please close machine. With 37 yes votes, 23 no votes, and 5 excused, House Bill 1436 is passed. Co-sponsors. please close the machine.